Thank you for joining us today, everyone. We're here with Crystal Shelton Spinner from Webster University. Crystal, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. How about yourself?
I'm doing good. Thank you for joining us as we look back on the SLAC volleyball during the 2000s. My first question for you, you stepped right into that Gorlock lineup, got newcomer of the year, your freshman year, finished with over 400 kills. What kind of allowed you to jump right into the collegiate action and be an impactful player?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. So volleyball has really been ingrained in me since I was a little girl. Started off with CYC, and then by about fourth grade, I was ready to jump into the select arena. So it really, honestly, was just about being volleyball 24/7. So I was always trying to make myself a better player. Whether that meant on the court or at home, practicing and kicking a ball around and just bettering myself as an athlete. So by the time college came around, obviously that high school period for me was a huge growth. And by the time I entered in at Webster my freshman year, I think just all that hard work had kind of paid off and allowed me to step right in and do the things that I did.
You mentioned there about CYC, and then obviously volleyball is well known for their club action. Club. Did you play club, and did you end up playing with any club members at Webster or within the league itself?
So that's a good question. So when I was in fourth grade, I had an older sister as well. So I think that also helped kind of get me into the game quicker. When you have an older sibling and you go and you get stuck sitting around at their practices and going to all their games, you're like, okay, I want to play too. I'm bored. So when I would actually go to her practices, I would pick up a ball and I just started teaching myself and watching them and kind of just, definitely a visual learner. So I just kind of picked it up and started from there. And I started playing club ball when I was in fourth grade, and I was actually playing up a grade. I thought it would kind of make me a little bit better to kind of, have other, people a little bit better and more skilled than me just push me harder in my own game. And from then I played all the way through high school until I entered Webster. I didn't actually play with any girls from Webster that I played club with, but I know a lot of those girls also did play club. So
All right, so we've kind of covered your growth within the game. Why did you choose to go to Webster University?
that one is an easy one. Mary Graff contacted me because my husband is a year ahead of me in grade wise, and he was an awesome stud basketball player.
Hmm.
And we've been together since I was 14. So
Wow.
when we were looking at colleges, we had other offers at different schools, but we knew that it was important to us that we kind of stick together and we didn't want to separate. And since he went ahead of me, it was kind of like we were on the same page as far as determining where we were going to go to school. So really, in short, he decided to stay more locally for me. And when he did that, he kind of had a conversation with Mary and showed her some of my skills video. And she was like, oh my gosh, I got to contact her. So then the rest was history. And I just decided to go after that. So
What a story.
yeah.
So once you're there at Webster, we mentioned, going in the lineup right away. You made it to the national tournament each of your final two seasons at Webster. What do you remember about those trips?
I remember, well, our team was very, very close. Actually, I became best friends with one of my setters and, a couple of the other girls close in age. And we started out very small. Like when I started as my freshman year, competition wise, they hadn't had a lot of success within the program. I know Mary hadn't been there too long before me. So she was still, kind of building up that program, and it does take a long time. So I feel like once we got there, then we started, kind of helping her recruit and bring in better student athletes to help grow that program. And I remember just the big trips like Colorado, and even in the conference tournaments, just making memories and just making everything all about that sport. We had team dinners and team functions and just became really, really close. And all of us had that heart and passion that we devoted to the game, which I think definitely, turned out to be in our favor, because when we were in those, tight game situations to advance in the conference championship, we were able to do that because of how much time and effort and hard work we put into the game.
Let's go into a little bit of the strategy for volleyball. If you can break it down for some of the fans,
Yeah.
they'll see the teams with, stud hitters like pound the ball. Like, why don't they just feed them the ball every time?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, obviously you got your share of kills, but can you talk to people about the importance of a setter? Not that you're a setter, but the importance of kind of spreading around the court, not just feeding that go-to player every time.
Yeah, no, of course. When I think it was my sophomore year, that's when I had broke the single school record for kills. But like I said, we were still building that program. So at the time, it was feed the horse, feed the horse, feed the horse, because there wasn't a lot of, kill type hitters that would just execute every time.
Mhm.
And that can definitely, depending on who you're playing, it's important to get the ball right to your setter so that it allows her to run her offense. But yeah, if you're setting the same person every single time, eventually the team is going to strategize and kind of camp out on you. And you definitely can shoot yourself in the foot, so to speak, because there are other hitters that could just have that opportunity to make those kills because they're camped out on you. So it's important to definitely spread it around, keep the other team on their toes, not knowing where the ball is going, so that, you definitely are working to your own advantage to, win the game.
So you mentioned, the team dinners, the trips to Colorado, such. What are some of your on-court favorite memories when you look back at your time at Webster?
Definitely winning conference championships where we would just like pile on the floor. When we played Wash U, we didn't, turn out the way we want, but just playing when they were number 4, I think, in the nation,
Right.
at that time, and we were beating them, those kinds of memories, like we still like vivid points where we'll remember, like, they called the ball in, we thought it was out, and we're like, come on, help me out here. But no, just all of those times where all the other student athletes would be there, like all the basketball guys always worked our line judge and officiating and
Mhm.
stuff like that. So just all of those memories, I think for me, in the beginning of the season, I always remember doing 2-a-days and not being able to walk up and down stairs for like the first week because we were so sore. But we all did it together, and we worked together. We rose together, and we won together, and and there were some tough losses in there too, but you definitely learn from those. It's not a complete failure, because from those losses you learn how to win the next game. So I would say definitely the conference championships for me is probably the most memorable experiences.
Now, quick side question for you. You mentioned the basketball guys doing the lines for you. Did Scott ever work the lines? Did you ever maybe get a
Nope.
little call? No?
No,
No?
no,
Okay.
he didn't actually do the lines for us. No, that would have been a bad situation. So we
Right.
steered
Yeah.
clear of
Yeah.
that. Yeah,
Could have put him in a bad position. So,
that's right. Yep.
um, couple final questions. As we look through this all-decade list of players, one of the things that I noticed was that 4 of the top 10 all-time kills leaders played during this decade with you, Christina Spear, Melissa Zwilling, and Nicole Meyer. What do you remember about that era of players and competing against each other?
Well, Christina Spear for sure. The other two, I wasn't as associated with, but Christina and I were very competitive. She and me, it was like she got player of the year, that I got player of the year, and I think like had one of us been absent, we probably would have dominated more within that time. But Christine and I had a very fun, healthy, competitive thing going on. It was like they'd feed her the ball, then they'd feed me the ball, and it was just back and forth. And it was like a healthy, despised amongst each other. But no, it was the same kind of thing. It was just like you look at those athletes, and it's they gave everything to that game, and they worked hard on and off the court, and that's the key. Sometimes at the Division III level, you don't have quite, and it depends on the school, but you don't have quite the highest level of dedication and hard work because there aren't athletic scholarships given. And for me, that was something that, even though I could have went somewhere where I gotten that, I wanted to go to Webster, and it allowed us to kind of prove that on the court that we were that dedicated, and we were willing to, we loved the game that much.
Right.
And you could see it through every game that we played, and the competition that we would give back and forth, and it was just an amazing experience. Definitely won't forget it.
As we look at the rest of the list, are there any other players that kind of, jog your memory and that you competed against or played with, that, you look back and you really enjoyed that competition?
Yeah, Christina was one of them for sure. Melanie Klingelhoefer, now Burnett. She also married a baseball player from Webster. Yeah, she was my setter, and we got very, very close. We just kind of had this like, peanut butter and jelly type relationship where we just gelled super, super well together. And Erin Grovey, now Florkey, she was another one of those. that we were just in Megan Florkey too, just all of us just and Abby Williams. I mean, I could go on and on and on. But yeah, we just had a tight knit group of girls that for sure, we just made tons and tons of memories on and off the court.
Well, that's cool. It sounds like you still stay in touch with them.
Yeah.
Final question, catch everybody up. What have you been up to since graduation?
Yeah, great question. It seems like yesterday. But it's funny because so my husband and I, like I mentioned before, I followed him to Webster and we got married actually July of my senior year. So I was 21, played volleyball. My teammates would make fun of me because I'm like, I gotta go home. I got a pot roast. And they're like, you're so old. I know you got all these other young kids on there that are just entering college. So for me, it was a really cool experience. But when I graduated, I was already married. So we've been married. This July will be 15 years.
Congratulations.
So that is crazy. Thank you. So pretty much we have 3 daughters. They're 12, 10, and 6. My older 2 are involved on like 4 different teams between basketball and softball. So honestly, like the last few years, that's all we have been doing is we have 2 basketballs tonight, games tonight. We got another one tomorrow. We got T-ball tomorrow. We just like are going. I work from home, kind of a social media influencer, as you will. So I do that. My husband runs a humane society out in Monroe County where we live in Illinois. So he's an executive director there. So we pretty much just kind of bouncing around between work and family. And, if we're not doing that, we're probably outside hitting a volleyball around or playing basketball or doing something active. So we stay busy, but we're living our best life for sure.
Well, that's great to hear. Well, I want to thank you again, Crystal, for joining us today. Really appreciated looking back at volleyball in the SLAC during the 2000s.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I really appreciate this honor.
No problem.